Hey, it's Tom Sinclair. It's time for Streaming Idiots. Glad you could join us. It's going to be an interesting show today. What can I say? It's just going to be interesting. Be right back. Hello, welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, your chief idiot here amongst streaming idiots. You know, I guess it's nice to be the top of the heap, but, you know, it all depends on what you're the top of the heap of. What is it they say? The last shall be first and the first shall be last, and I guess I'm the last. The last of the good ones, the first of the bad ones, shall we say. The whole idea is just the idea here with this show, Streaming Idiots, is that I get to make a bunch of mistakes and make a fool of myself doing it, and you get to learn from my mistakes, hopefully if you're as smart as I think you are, and as a result, we all have better streams for whatever purpose. You know, I'm the one guy, one PC, one awesome broadcast theme. I think you can do it all with one PC. I don't think you need a room full of PCs to do this. You do need the right software-hardware combinations, and that's a lot of what we talk about here. In fact, I experimented with a new hardware today I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. Welcome all my friends in the chat room that have shown up today live, and always welcome you to come in live and have your say in the chat. And sometimes there's special goodies in the chat that only chat guys get, like a special invitation today. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're delighted to have you, and we invite you to subscribe to us so that you'll get notices of whenever we post a new show. And we'd love to have you subscribe. In fact, last time I checked, we had 998 subscribers. Wow, I was thrilled. Just 2 away from 1,000, and that's a real honor. I'm honored by all the folks that watch live, and honored by all the folks that watch on YouTube, and honored by all those of you that subscribe. Hopefully what I'm doing excuse me, will help you make a better stream. So let's dive right into it, shall we? Today I caution folks about this all the time. Don't make a change to your setup before you're about to make a broadcast. Whatever it is, whether you're live to tape or whether you're live in tape, and don't change your set. Don't even update your Windows the day of a broadcast. You want to make sure that everything's working the last time you tested, and change nothing after that. Don't update Windows Defender. In fact, don't even enable that. Certainly don't make any changes to any software or hardware. Don't put new cards into your PC, or install new drivers, or update old drivers, or anything like that you're tempted to do, especially if it's one of those situations. I remember when I was streaming soccer, we would get to the stadium and we would get all set up, and everything would go so smoothly that I had an extra 30 minutes to kill. Did I go get a hot dog and a soda like I should have? No. I started tinkering around with the setup. And inevitably, I would mess things up or break it or do something, and would have to restart or reboot or restore or whatever, and end up being late getting back on the air because I just couldn't resist the urge to go test something or fix it or break it. That's what it was. So don't be me. Don't be me on that one. The worst mistake you can make is to try to do too much, I think. Doing too little sometimes is not a bad idea when you're in this testing mode. I do think you should test everything if you as close to the real life circumstances as you possibly can. I know sometimes if you're in a venue and you're using their internet connection, you can't simulate what it's like if all of a sudden they have 5,000 people in there. Or what happens if your stream, which worked well for 200 people, suddenly bombs out because your CDN can't handle it when you hit 45,000 all at once. So test whatever you can. But today, a couple of weeks ago, right after the last show, remember we took a break last week for Thanksgiving, and my apologies for those of you that I didn't get the message to. right after the show 2 weeks ago, I installed a new Blackmagic Intensity Pro card in my PC. I had one that I had picked up off of eBay a while back and never was able to get it quite configured correctly. I think perhaps that maybe I just bought a bad card and didn't know it until it was too late. Anyway, and I also picked up an extra camera. You never can have too many cameras. It was one of those eBay kind of things where I bid on it, and then I said, yeah, I'm just going to bid one more time. And I just wanted to see what the bids would do, and then I ended up buying the camera. It was a Canon Vixia HF 200, which is a nice little camera. It does 1080p, or probably 1080i. And that's what we're using right now. You can tell I didn't have enough time to play with it because my color's off a little bit. I'm a little pink today, a little pinker today than I normally would be. I do not have a sunburn. The camera plugs in HDMI to the PC, and it took a little while to get that configured so that it was up and running. And then trying to configure the cam to white balance and exposure and things like that, and then trying to configure the vMix software that we're using for the streaming portion of the show today. Try to get it configured, and so you've kind of got two variables that you're working with at the same time, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But right before air today, in fact, the color configuration that we had put together just bombed out. And it started getting really flaky. We started getting some flickers in the edge of the screen over here, which means that the chroma key was failing for one reason or another. In fact, you can see a little green tint in my hand right here, yeah, and in between my fingers, which means that I don't have the chroma key dialed in as well as I should. And that's probably why I'm looking a little pink in the face, is because I think pink would be sort of the opposite from the chroma key green. In fact, let me pop the chroma key green up there for you guys just to see. Yeah, that's chroma key green. And so you can see the reflection of that off my fingers would, of course, give you that look right there. So I need to do a better job of dialing that in. And I'm still use vMix. VidBlaster has been my software of choice for the last several years, and excuse me, trying to force myself to learn the other software so that I can make a good, honest comparison for my clients when they say, hey, we want to do a talk show. We want to do live video in our church. We want to do sporting events. What software do you recommend? Well, golly, my heart says I got to tell the truth. And so I can say, well, I know this one really, really well, and I don't know this one well, and I don't know this one at all, so I can't help you. I'd rather be able to say, well, you know what? I've been in your shoes, and I would use this one and not this one or this one for this reason, although this one has this strength and this one has that strength. And so, and the three that I'm talking about are VidBlaster, vMix, and Wirecast, which all end up at the end of the alphabet. I don't know how that works. But today, I said, I'm going to break the rules, and I'm going to get this new cam fired up. And fortunately, it was relatively easy. The HDMI cable that came with the camera, of course, was too short. It was a 6-footer, and I needed a 15-footer because I've taken my streaming PC and I've shoved it in a nearby closet. It gets plenty of ventilation, but it sure does cut down on the noise. So I'm really happy with that. But so I got that cable just yesterday, and so was plugging in the camera for the first time, at least in this way, and getting it set on the tripod in front of in front of me right here. Let's see. I think I've got a shot here that kind of shows you. You can see here's the cam right up here, and then there's bookshelves and an office space behind that. So there's plenty of room to work back there to get to the camera. It was just trying to get everything configured and set up in a good way. One of the things that I did notice, in fact, and I'm going to go back to that shot right here, is about 20 minutes before showtime, my right monitor went out. Now, it's not the monitor per se. I don't think. I think it is the video card. And when I switch the cables between the, let me go back to that shot again, sorry. I've got a 24-inch monitor in the center and then 19s on either side. The 19s are Dell monitors. It's a Samsung in the middle. When I switch the inputs on the monitors, the live input goes with the live wire, and so both monitors work. Boy, I did a terrible job of explaining that. But anyway, so I think I've got a video card problem. I guess I could have a cable. No, that's right, I swapped. No, I need to go back and try and see if I can swap out cables, if that'll make a difference. So anyway, the idea is that generally I have 3 monitors to work with, so I can do screen captures and do all sorts of other things. And again, you know, the one guy, one PC mantra, when part of your one guy, one PC part goes out, suddenly I'm one guy, 2/3 of a PC because everything I've planned to do over here, suddenly I had to switch over here, and then I had to reconfigure monitors. So that's my way too long excuse for why I don't have a great crackerjack show for you today, but rather a great example of how not to do it. Number 1, don't make major changes before you broadcast. Number 2, have time to test things and make sure that they're working. I mean, I'm assuming that the monitor thing and the new video card and the new camera are separate problems. At least I'm going to treat them separately until I know otherwise. So anyway, that's the story with that. That's what not to do. I did have an interesting call. I was on the road to Virginia for the holidays. Had an interesting call on, I guess it was Wednesday, from our friend R.J. Murdoch in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. R.J. had a streaming assignment for the NCAA Division I basketball tournament that was being held in his hometown. CBS Sports was going to broadcast the finals, but they were looking for somebody to broadcast the opening rounds and the semifinals. And so RJ got the nod and set up a really cool configuration of hardware and software. He had 2 game announcers. And I'm not going to steal all this thunder because I'm thinking we're going to have him on the show next week. But RJ basically had a 5-camera shoot and used this many camera people. He used himself. And so I'll let him describe in more detail about that because it was really fascinating. But the funniest part of this story, and I don't mind telling this part, was RJ called Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah. No, it was Saturday. That's right. Sorry. You know how the holidays are. All the days get mixed up. He had broadcasts on Friday and Saturday. He called Saturday morning to say that the broadcast went spectacularly well on Friday, except that one of the teams has a huge following. It's a school called Crichton. And they're not a very large college, but they're a very powerful basketball team, and they tend to do pretty well in their division. And they had 4,000 or 5,000 folks tap into the stream, which tapped him out on his prepaid CDN for the weekend or for the month. All of a sudden, all his gigabytes gigged up and left. And so he was calling me to say, Tom, should I try to set up a YouTube account or try to do something with Bamboozer, or how can we accomplish this? Or I think he had talked at some point about. I'm distracted by somebody in the chat room making little editorial comments. John in Gainesville, you know who you are. He had blown through his bandwidth. He was trying to figure out something to do. I mean, he was pulling a Tom Sinclair. He was making major changes at the last minute. Here it was Saturday morning. He had games coming up in about 2 hours, and he didn't have a CDN. Does that sound like a fun situation? So he gets a wild hair. He decides he's going to call me and see what solutions I could possibly give. Well, the idea of telling somebody, sure, just sign on to YouTube, no problem, or do YouTube live, no problem. No, it's hard to do, at least the very first time. It's not hard, it's just complicated. You know, anybody can do it if you can read directions, but the chances of getting it absolutely perfectly right the first time, I didn't think were very good. So I wasn't in favor of that. And doing Ustream, you know, who wants a bunch of somebody else's commercials on there? That didn't sound like a good idea. But it hit me while we were on the phone. He was using Dacast, D-A-C-A-S-T, Dacast.com, to do his streaming. But he'd burned up all of his monthly allowance already, and he didn't want to go into overages. And I said, well, you know, RJ, I use Dacast for my show. In fact, that's what you guys, if you're watching it live, you're watching it on Dacast right now. We're streaming out 2 different streams, an HD stream, 720p stream, and a real low stream for people that want to watch us on their phones. I think it's like 144p, something like that. Anyway, I said, you know, RJ, I've got them, you know, I have the smallest package that Dacast will sell me. It's 100 gigabytes a month, and I don't come anywhere close to using that. But the cool thing about it is that Dacast will let me roll over my unused gigs or megs from month to month. And I think I've got like 5 terabytes left over. I said, why don't you just take some of my terabytes? I'm not using them. And, you know, eventually they'll get dusty and moldy and somebody will have to throw them out. And he said, would you do that? I said, sure. Here's my password. Here's my, you know, user account. And so I guess he did. I haven't talked to him since, but I hope to soon. I did go on the Dacast website, log into my account because I was curious, you know, how many of my terabytes did he use? They may have been dusty, but they were mine. Anyway, I think I had, you know, 4.8 terabytes or something like that. Now I have 2.7, so even he didn't use them all. But I think he reduced the resolution of his stream so that he wouldn't eat up, you know, all the available bandwidth that I had already purchased, which I appreciate. So I'm anxious to hear back from him how that went. But what it really said to me was there is a network out there of us streaming guys, all of us streaming idiots out there. And sooner or later, we're going to get in trouble and we're going to need somebody else to help us, whether it's, you know, somebody that just happens to have a whole pocket full of terabytes, or whether it's somebody that's got a great solution to a problem and we got the problem, they got the solution. Don't be, what's the right word? Don't be a guy. That's the best word. Don't be a guy. Call for help. In fact, don't be a guy. Go ahead and establish some relationships ahead of time. The fact that you're watching the show says that you're interested. Go ahead and touch base with other folks, either folks that are locally or folks that you come across in the great cyber world, and make a connection so that when you're in a jam, you've got a buddy out there that can throw you a lifeline. Maybe, you know, maybe they can, maybe they can't. We don't really know. But I will tell you, having been through this enough times, I mean, I'll tell you, don't tell anybody. My wife, Sandy, is a dear, a doll. She knows nothing about streaming, nothing about broadcasting, nothing about video or audio or mics or mixers or any of that stuff. But she has a knack. Well, let me just tell you how it works, and you can tell me what the knack is. I have a problem here. I can't figure it out. Doggone it. I'm too embarrassed to call anybody else because I should be able to figure it out. And it was working yesterday. And so I'll go in, and I've done this dozens of times with her, and it works almost every time. I'll go in and say, San, I got a problem. You need to help me with this problem. Oh, okay. So I begin to describe the problem, and her eyes glaze over. They roll back in her head. Her body starts shuddering, and she's like, don't tell me any more of this. I don't want to hear it. This has to do with streaming. I'm not interested. And I said, I don't want you to be interested. I just want you to listen for a second, because you always have the solution. And she doesn't know anything, and she knows she doesn't know anything. So she'll listen to me, and then she'll say something about, well, you know, what about that green mouse? You know, that green mouse you used to have, would that make a difference? And of course, the green mouse has nothing to do with it. But somehow she's figured out how my brain works. And she'll open up that little green mouse door, and my solution is right behind it. And lo and behold, she has helped me out again. And this has worked with streaming. It has worked with all sorts of computer problems. It's worked with automobile repair problems because I love to do shade tree mechanics. And she has the knack for helping me figure out the problem. And I think you need to have some go-to people that you could go to. Now, if you don't have anybody else, you got me. You can shoot me an email, tom@streamingidiots.com, and I might be able to help. Now, I probably can't help with a 5-minute deadline, but I can help maybe with a 5-hour deadline, or certainly a 5-day deadline. If it's just a quick question, I'm happy to help. This is one of the ways that I feed my family. So if it gets into more than just a couple of emails, we'll ask you to buy a support package. But, that's okay. If it's worth it, it's worth it. And if it's not, it's not. And sometimes I can send you in the right direction. I may not have the solution, but I can send you in the right direction of folks that have. One of the questions that came up in the chat room before the broadcast today was, how do you do an audio stream? Well, I don't really know, but I know people that do know. And so I sent them to him. And by the way, Amnon Nissan at Nissan Communications does an audio stream. I think he does it for all his shows, but I know he does it for Computers 2K Now, computers2know.com. It's Sunday mornings Eastern at 9 o'clock. Runs about 3 hours. Bunch of old guys sitting around talking tech. And these are old guys that have been around tech since, the CPM MS-DOS days. So they really know what they're talking about. It's a lot of fun. So Amnon Nissan knows how to do audio streaming. In fact, he does it on his own server and doesn't even use a CDN. And he doesn't have tons and tons of folks that listen live, but he does have that available for folks. So if you're interested, shoot Amnon an email. He might be able to help you on that one. Excuse me. Oh, I hope I'm not keeping you up. Anyway, so coming up, hopefully next week will be R.J. Murdoch coming in to talk about how he streamed the Division I basketball. We'll be there. It will be a lot of fun, I hope. Also coming up in the future, we're going to be talking about a little bit more about vMix. We're going to be upgrading, hopefully before too long, to Wirecast 6. So you remember we did probably 2.5 months ago, we did a pre-review of Wirecast 6. And so now we're going to upgrade to it finally and go ahead and run it through the ringer. We'd actually upgraded to Wirecast 5, and then they announced Wirecast 6 the next day, and they were kind enough to take our Wirecast 5 back, the upgrade that we had made, and we were holding off a little bit because the Wirecast 4 to Wirecast 6 upgrade is more expensive than the 4 to 5 upgrade. So it's about $300, which is a pretty pricey upgrade, but it is what it is. And we want to be able to have all three of those guys in-house so that we can test them and see which one we like the best. Today we're using vMix 14 for the broadcast, and we're using Wirecast 4 for the streaming. We're streaming 720p. We're recording 720p. We're using, CPU between 55 and 65%. We're also, what else? We're not really doing much else. We've got some chroma key going on, and I guess that's about it. Anyway, that brings us to the close of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was a treat to have you. If you will, if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because we might just say something that you'd be interested in knowing in the future. And if you're watching us live, hang around, because we're going to have a what would we call it? A Christmas party. Yeah. Or maybe the Christmas party's next week. Anyway, hang around. We'll figure out what's going on in the after show. So thanks for watching. Love having you, and look forward to having you back next time on Streaming Idiots. So if I can get all things queued up right here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, take care.